Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas talking with Steve Robinson and Simon Horn. They're from the Homeless Outreach Team, or HOT. Going to give you the number, 330-754-4687. That's 330-754-4687. And we're talking about a special program, Room at the Inn. The important thing is, as we're getting into what we're being told, if the Farmer's Almanac is correct again, we've got a cold winter ahead of us. And there is no reason for someone to be spending that on a grate or a park bench. When we've got these, as you say, churches with halls that would be able to house some people, and Sisters of Charity offering to provide cots, for goodness sake. So tell us a little bit about the particulars. We would need what volunteers to supervise and what's needed to make this happen.
The time slot is 11 at night to 7 in the morning. And people that pretty much all they have to do is show up. They need a cell phone so that if there were any kinds of emergencies, they could make a call. But mostly people are going to sleep through the night. This has been done before, and has been without a problem. And sometimes people want to think that there's a big security issue, but largely there's no security issue. People just come in, go to bed, get up in the morning. We do have places that have agreed that they could take showers there in the morning that are separate from there, and they can go to those places. And we know places that are serving food throughout the day, and we're going to provide them those lists.
I think the lost homeless that we don't think about is how many children are affected. And I know the Pursuit of Happiness movie where the father's living with his son in a, train station or a bus station or an airport or somewhere. He was finding places to be able to just get in out of the cold. The children that are affected by this.
And this overflow situation lets us provide for all the children that could possibly be cold this winter. And it is connected to the homeless hotline. And they do prioritize. And families, either fathers or mothers that have children, will be put ahead of people who are single, which is appropriate. But we believe once we execute this, that in Canton there will be shelter for everyone through this cold season.
You mentioned some people fall through the cracks. What cracks, and how does that happen?
Well, if you're running a well-organized homeless shelter and people are in serious recovery, it can be a serious detriment if somebody comes in who's currently actively drunk or high. So some shelters have to, as a part of their recovery protocols, ban people who are currently in an addictive or alcoholic moment. And that's quite appropriate, it's quite reasonable, but it also means that where are they going to go who are drunk? And when they try to sleep outside, it's even more dangerous because they can't regulate their body temperature effectively, and they are more likely to freeze to death. So that's a simple, identifiable crack that needs to be helped. It's maybe more challenging in some regards, but it's a crack.
Boy, that's a hard one, isn't it? What do you do in that case? Because, as you say, you don't want to endanger young children or something by bringing in someone who's under the influence of something, but you also don't want that person under the influence to freeze to death. What do we do?
Well, in this community, we're looking for a building or a home that anybody that's not using could donate or lend to us to get those people through the season. Kind of a separate problem, but it's a very important problem. And
certainly you're not suggesting that that's the party house.
Oh, no.
Absolutely not. And we also don't want it to be just a short story, a nicer place than the current shelters. We want it to be very austere and very limited so that people want to move and get hope to go to a shelter. Yes. But at least they don't die from the elements and in the cold. Yes. Or some homeless people are getting beat up by gang violence. Now the gangs get challenged to do initiation. So we want to move that way and solve that problem.
There's a protocol or a procedure that commonly follows with people who are in alcohol or drug addiction. Very commonly, they'll go to they all know this. You go to the emergency room at Altman Hospital. And eventually, the security guards kick them out, and they go around to the back, and they go in through the other entrance, and they go up to I won't mention the floor, and they hide out in the surgical waiting area till they get caught by the security guards and chased out. That's one of the more common ways that people are having a a homeless initiative and nowhere to go deal with the cold, but it puts an undue burden on both the hospital and the security staff. Another way that they can be helped before they can come to our shelters, the police often find these people because they don't want people freezing on the benches, and they will take them to the hospital. And then they can't be kicked out until they've been released by the medical staff as no longer seriously intoxicated. Okay. At that point, of course, then they would be ideally suited to coming to this facility once we've identified it, where they won't be a danger to themselves or others.
And the police and the hospitals would be aware of this so that you're on their list of where to go. How do we get the word? Is that what we're doing today, making sure that people know about you?
That's part of it. I do some work with NAMI, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. It's a wonderful organization. Right. And I do some of the home training for the police officers for their CIT certification. And every single one of the Canton police officers has been to my house over the last 5 or 6 years has basically said, we need exactly what the HOT team is starting to build, because they can't get them in and they don't know where to take them. And it's a real problem for our local police force. But if we have this facility, they'll have a procedure they can follow, and it takes the burden off the police, it takes the burden off the community, and it moves them into a recovery protocol.
And are we depending on the police and so for those who would be bringing someone, we're relying on them to know about you? Or are we also trying to get the word to somebody on the streets about you? How do we do that? That's harder.
We definitely want the opportunity to be in front of all churches and all congregations, Sunday school classes, Christian groups, Bible studies, to tell the word and spread the news so that people know. And here's something that people don't know. Whenever you give a homeless person a cash donation on the street, 90% of the time you are buying them the thing that they need, that they're addicted to. You are not really helping them.
Right.
Give your money to a charity where they have to go to get the help legitimately, because they're going to spend your money to buy alcohol or, worse yet, drugs.
What do you suggest about having maybe in your glove box a bunch of Lunchables or something like that? So when someone is out there, you're at a stop sign or you're at a red light or something, and someone's holding the sign saying, I'm a veteran, I need, down on my luck, I need some help. And you're so wanting to give them something, but as you say, they might not use it for food, and they might not use it for diapers or something that's necessary for their family. They may use it for alcohol or drugs. To be able to hand them food, does that work? Or is it still better?
That is not the most effective thing to do. Really, giving them one of our cards. I have one here for you.
Yes.
That says the number that they can call to get help. They can just borrow or beg the opportunity to use someone else's cell phone. We have places where they can then use a phone all the time, where they can get in the continuum of care and get help. But we also know where someone's serving a hot meal every day, and almost every day, twice a day. So there's places where they can eat and get the help that they need without giving them the temptation of cash to buy the thing that they're addicted to.
Right. You did mention, as Christians, we don't have a deciding whether or not this is a good idea, do we?
Right.
There's a mandate.
There's a mandate, and I'm excited to be just a part of this because of that mandate. And just not so long ago, and obviously I've been doing this a long time, but just not so long ago, I was thinking about the fact that at the Last Supper, no one washed Jesus' feet. He as an act of humility, actually people were fighting over who's going to be the most important in the kingdom.
Right.
And he went around and washed their feet and said, this is what it's about. The first shall be last. But when Jesus said, inasmuch as you have done this to the least of these, and he listed things like hunger and thirst and homelessness, he listed those things. He said, if you've done that to the least of these, you've done it to me. Here is your chance to do something really nice for Jesus himself. And when he separates the sheep from the goats, it's a judgment. And it's not a judgment of non-believers and believers. It's a judgment of believers. It's the
Just
flock.
that reminder that we're to see Jesus in their faces and that we are doing for him what we were doing for them.
And it changes the tone just when you're cleaning those rooms at the inn.
Yes.
And other places. I'm doing this now for Jesus.
Yes.
And you really want to do a good job.
Do it well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got another great idea, hot for change and change for hot. Tell us about that. I love the play on words there.
We're trying to get churches to help us raise support without disrupting their own fundraising. And we have used this successfully in other churches. But we have a piggy bank, and the piggy bank has a little card on it that says Hot for Change and Change for Hot. And when we're Hot for Change, it's Homeless Outreach Team for Change. And part of that is that some of the stuff that we're doing now to help the homeless does not work. And it's poison to them, and including giving them cash, enabling their addiction, including helping them to not support themselves and get a job when they could get the support they need and the training they need to get a job. Teach a man how to fish, and then teach a man about fishing. And then So then it's change for hot. So taking your pocket change out every day when you go home and just dumping it in the piggy bank for 30, 60, 90 days. And at the end, it's added up. We've had some churches do it. The church that comes to mind was 400, and they raised about $3,000 without taking any money out of the church's budget.
Yeah.
And it was just change over a 90-day period. It was from Thanksgiving to the Super Bowl. And you could do something from now till Thanksgiving. But anyway, some significant time period, all the pastor did was stand up and remind them, shake the piggy bank and say, don't forget about helping the homeless outreach team. And boom, success.
And so you're just looking for churches willing to let you come in and speak for a couple of minutes, talk to everybody?
Tell them what we do and help us by taking the piggy banks and distributing them.
Okay, let's give you that number again. It's 330-754-4687. 330-754-4687. We need churches to do a few things. We need some volunteers to help prepare rooms for homeless. We need the Hot for Change, Change for Hot, just to, collect some piggy banks. You provide the piggy banks?
Yes.
And just fill them up. Just empty your pockets at the end of the day, right?
Right.
It's amazing what you find there. And I'm sure you wouldn't mind if someone also, wrote a check and stuffed it in the
wouldn't mind. It's amazing how you knew that.
You'd be okay with that? We are seriously just so out of time. But give me one good success story. Why are we doing this? Remind us why we're doing this again.
So we had a lady, and she was coming to church, and she was living out of her van, and she had 5 dogs, 3 kids, and she was living in a Ford Aerostar minivan. And she parked her van in a friend's parking in a driveway. And one day the axle broke on that minivan, and she became completely homeless that day. So with my help, the help of the Total Living Center, the help of the Salvation Army, we consolidated all of their different funds, got her a rent deposit, got her an apartment, got her first month's utilities, all these things. And then, much to my surprise, she was in that for a month and she hadn't gotten a job. And I said, well, what have you done? She says, well, I put an application in at Wendy's, I put an application in Motel 6, and I'm waiting. And so she just didn't realize. You just put applications in until you get a job. So we paid a second month's rent. We put her to work, and her job was to call places until she got a job.
Yes.
And she did. And today she is happily working at a place that sells donuts and coffee. And I see pictures of her on Facebook with her donuts. She's very proud, and she's proud that she's paying the bills. And the kids are in school. She did get rid of 4 of 5 dogs. So a lot of good things came out of this.
Steve Robinson, Simon Horn, thank you so much for what you're doing in our community.
Thank you for having us. God bless.